Seksele kancane sizophumelela. Yo yo yo. Seksele kancane. Seksele kancane sizophumelela. Yo yo yo. Seksele kancane. Seksele kancane sizophumelela.
Aye ye mabhakaniya aye ye ezikamagebhula esagebhula umhlaba kamasipala zawubhekisa phezulu kwathiwa umhlaba kamasipala ubheke south zawuchange zawufaka north. Hayi bafethu, congratulations to the biggest institution, in the South African, football space, for winning, again, a second cup. That MTN Cup trophy, it was sitting at Mayfair and it was lonely in those cupboards. And then this team decided to go to no, man, we need to add another one, Justin Juguti, Bambambise, Angabine Zungu, and again, Bafethu, I think I've said this, in this channel, that the treble for me is smelling this season for Orlando Pirates, and it will be beautiful for the treble to come with, the league. And again, congratulations to Coach Wadu, because this cup, Carling Knockout Cup, has been eluding Orlando Pirates for a very, very long time. Again, thank you, Jose Rivero, because he crawled and crawled for Coach Wadu to walk and then run. We've been bridesmaid, for years, guys. I don't know how many times, we went into cup finals, and we won Fokor. In the time, in the era of Eric Tinkler, it was a very, very painful. I think one of the most painful one was me coming to Mbombela Stadium. I think final basically Platinum Stars. Hey guys, with the hope that Orlando Pirates is gonna go through, it never happened. And Jose came and changed, everything about, about that club. Again, it was also beautiful to see you guys, that DD banner, Kambogas, to say goodbye in his last game for Orlando Pirates. I also even posted, on Twitter about it. I zoomed and I looked at it. It was beautiful. The players went there and collected, start running around with it, in the pitch. It was beautiful. And the nice thing about it is, I was there to witness this, and I've never been to any cup final, myself at Orlando Pirates lose. It never. And before, it wasn't the case, So congratulations, Mapagani. I think Anza on Twitter saying, before the game, he said that, this is a game that is going to be a little bit more tactical. And again, when we came into the match, it was very tactical, and there was a lot of good things that Marumo brought into this game. But I also felt that, it's a game that we complicated ourselves, and why am I saying so? Let's dive in, into it, Mapagania. If just from the lineup itself, when I saw the lineup, I was like, here again, Coach Wadu. Because for me, starting with Unem Tangela as a number 10, it's a cup final where Orlando Pirates needs to win. And my coach goes and gamble. He goes and try a combination that he has never, ever, ever played before. He tries in the final. And for me, just by seeing Unem Tangela, no Makaula, no Mbata, for me already, I was saying to myself, damn, this coach is doing it again, gambling in a very, very, very critical game to say, why don't you use your combination that you've used before? We've talked about this, with Wompoza, with Coach KP, and we told even Coach PP that Umakaula is being built to actually start the final, which is exactly that happened. Again, starting Apolis in this particular game again, he has always been used, as an impact player. It has always been working. The coach decides in a final, in a critical game, a game of consequence, he's going to change that, and Apolis is going to start. And the reason for me, I don't have an issue with Apollo starting, but my issue is in my pre-match tactical analysis, I spoke about, the left-hand side that needed to be attacked. And I think in this particular game, it was clear that Umube was all over Orlando Pirates in this particular game. But we'll go there. And the reason why I needed Umoremi on the left. And if Moremi wasn't there, the coach goes again and starts Undaba in a big final. When exactly we needed the pace on the left and ensure that we pin Ncube, into that right back position, and we don't allow him, to come inside, and cause the damage that he has caused into this particular game. And again, Buffett, I've said this before. It is very, very difficult, to judge Coach Wadu's decision, because you judge, and guess what he does? He goes and he wins. He goes and win games, for you. And then again, this is another game that we come here and we are saying all what we are saying. But at the end of the day, what does the score say? 1-0. What does it say? Orlando Pirates has won the game. The first half for me, there were two big problems that I felt that Coach Wadu, needed to ensure, that he resolves, in coming into the second half, and for me, number one was Ukumbula Ncube, that number 13, the right back from Marumo Gallants, who was inverting into midfield, and causing havoc, because when he inverts into midfield, it becomes him, it becomes then Ubanse. And then in front of them, then you've got Unhlapo. And then in front of them, you've got to stall that left foot. Hey, guys, the way on left, in terms of how he dish out the passes using his left hand, his intelligence and his touches, and his technical ability, and then when it's about 4. Undlondlo then also drops now and then into midfield, then it becomes 5. What happens now? It becomes a 5v3 because we've got 3 central midfielders. No matter you Apollo into that no matter you Urele into that midfield and make it a 5v4. But still again, they've got numerical superiority into that midfield. For me, that boy, if it wasn't the fact that Orlando Pirates won, I think he deserved to win, the man of the match, because he was incredible. He was causing Orlando Pirates a lot of issues. He's the one that was inverting and starting a play. He's incredible in terms of how he plays those passes. But I know for sure that defensively he's found wanting. That's why I saw wanted on the left-hand side that we have Umoremi, we've got, we also have Uhoto, so that we ensure we pin him into that side. Or he even needs, a second player to help him into that position and able to defend. And for me, the second problem that we have in the first half was Nemtangel. For me, he was lost in that number 10 position. For me, it is a crime. It's a football crime that Willem Tangela finished 120 minutes. Today, I'm still asking myself, why did he finish, the entire game? Because for me, he was lost from the very first minute up into the last minute. That's my view that's how I view it. So for me, the very first sub that I was expecting was Mbule coming in for Willem Tangela. I was shocked. When it so happened that the coach, when he made the sub, when he brought in Moremi, he then took out Umakaula, who I think for me was incredible combination yake. Combination yake in midfield, and I felt that. I don't know, guys. Maybe you guys can tell me what is the reasoning. Some are saying it was the red card, or he was in a yellow card and close to a red card. Some will say he was injured. For me, I still don't understand how he took out Makaula into that midfield, because the very first player that Ebegafunu Tomula into that game was Willem Tangela. I hope Uguti. Willem Tangela is not the same issue that happened with Utito, last season, where we were complaining under Uchose Uguti. No matter how much, or how terrible in some games he plays, he always starts in the match. And I felt that Willem Tangela at times, even if it is not at his best, he's never really substituted into that midfield. Again, the reason why I wanted Mbule to come into that game is the very same reason I spoke about in my pre-match analysis, to say that in the red zone, there is always, guys, a space in between the lines. And I wanted a player that was going to stay in between the lines and receive in between the lines and cause havoc. I also wanted a player that would be able to easily play Emma 1-2s. And I felt Tangela wanted to control the ball, and then once he controlled with his left, with the left or right, and then he start looking and start to pass, he wasn't quick enough into that zone. And there was a times where he got, into that zone. And when he needed to take a first time shot or a first time pass, he always wanted to control first. And then by the time he controlled, they take, and then the chance it goes away, or they even take the ball. So for me, into that number 10, I wanted a player that had an intelligence and very quick thinking, and was able to get, to exploit the space. Because for me, I'll say it again, this game could have finished us in 90 minutes, but we then complicated ourselves and went into 120 minutes for us to get there. So for me, I felt like it is a tool that we have, which is Nemtangela, but it wasn't for the job to exploit the gap in between the lines that we actually needed that particular player. And then already for me, guys, he was incredible. For me, if Bektua, we want to give an Orlando Pirates player a man of the match, that's the player that was. If you look in the first half, guys, I think I counted 3 chances where I think it should have been a goal for Urele. And that goal was smelling and smelling and smelling and smelling. And eventually, he scored. And guess what, Buffett? Where did he score? He scored in the red zone. The same red zone that I talk about, the same space in between the lines that I spoke about. Then for me, after that, guys, in the first half, there were a lot of Emma subs that for me it didn't make sense. Moremi came in for Makawula, which was very strange. Hoto came in for Undaba. What was strange about it was he came in very late. There was a time where he looked like he got injured, and that was a time where Hoto should have got in. I think he should have even got in from the first half. But again, what happened? He came in very, 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 very late, and we took a long time to introduce him. And when he got in, guess what happened? He pinned Uncube, and he wasn't causing the damage that he was causing. Again, he even required another player to help him on the right to be able to assist him, especially when defensively. Umbule, for me, was a player that game was screaming for him as a number 10. But again, he was introduced very late. But when he came in, he was incredible. Again, when Cameron came in, I was relieved, because at some point we were playing with Udem Tanjira Nombule in midfield, and I felt that defensively, will be found wanting. Again, Bafetu, I can come here and fault the decision of the coach. At the end of the day, he won the cup, and even though there were a lot of strange decisions into that game, but guess what? Orlando Pirates won. Ayeye mapagania ayeye.